Thanks for coming, joining. Hi, Sunil. How are you?
Yeah, hi. I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I have a Jay with me, he's my colleague. So I think you already had a couple of interviews for other team, right? Some time back. Uh, right. So this is, I think, the interview is for the another team within UBS. So you mentioned about our database, Postgres, and MySQL, right? And Java, you mentioned that you have worked on Java 14 as well, right? Currently,
Yes,
you're working on Java 14, okay,
yes.
and Spring Boot as Hibernate. Probably I'll just quickly start with and one more. Just wanted to bring clear this to you that this is an individual contributor role and there will be no PT management. So is that okay with you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's individual contributor. And okay, fine. So let's quickly start with something. Probably I'll just ask you a scenario, right? So you mentioned you are using Hibernate as well. Hibernate, right? So that's an you are this using the Hibernate ORM solution for connecting to the database, right?
Yes.
So in which scenario? Okay, so you're being a senior developer, okay, and you said you make a detailed design. So you have a requirement you need to connect to say a database, Oracle database, right?
Okay.
Now, what will you do? In this scenario, you will go for an ORM solution versus directly JDBC connection, right? So either you use Hibernate or MyBatis, or you can directly use the JDBC connection where you can directly execute the database queries, right? So both options, all three options are available. But being a developer or senior developer, on what basis you will take a decision? Okay, I need to go for ORM solution. Either it's MyBatis or Hibernate, or I will use the JDBC directly.
Sure. So like yeah, as you have mentioned, like it depends on the requirement. So let's say what is an ORM tool? So ORM tool is nothing but like the object relational mapping, right? So it if you want to access any database object as a Java object, then we will need a converter like which can convert the database object to the column itself to the Java object, so that we can access through the Java object itself and we can play with them, right? So in that scenario, and apart from this, like we are having some advantages using the ORM tool, because here like we are having the second level cache, like we can enable the second level cache. And in short, like Hibernate itself, like they have provided some SQL queries. Okay, so they are little we can create the entities, we can define the mapping between two tables, right? So by seeing that Pojo class itself, we are well known. Okay, so this is the employee table and these are the department table. So each department have the many number of employees. So by looking into the entities itself, we are like it's more user friendly, like we can identify, okay, so this there is going to be one to many relationship. Apart from this, like we can get using the Java object itself, right? So these are the some advantages of using the Hibernate. So even the in the Hibernate, it implement internally converts the HQL into the SQL that can run on the database itself, because the database only understand the SQL, right? So it internally converts into the SQL itself. So like it depends like on your requirement itself. Whenever you are in future, like you want to enable the second level cache or any kind of cache, and you want to play with the Java object from which you can play with the database column itself. So in such scenarios, like we can go with the ORM tool, like object relational mapping. So Hibernate is one of the tool like that can map the Java object to the your database objects.
Okay, and in which scenario you will go for JDBC? Because the business requirement will not say that you need to use the JDBC or ORM solution. It's a technical decision which a
Yes.
developer, senior developer, architect, or technical architect should take, right? So, what did you mention? A couple of advantages of using the object relation mapping and all those things? It's simple, or user friendly, or developer friendly, right?
Yes.
So, what about JDBC queries then? What is the advantage of directly using JDBC queries?
So the advantages of using JDBC queries, like there is no intermediate converter, like as you are using any kind of ORM tool. So initially they will have their own the queries that are more user friendly to a particular developer, and then internally that again will going to convert into the database query itself, right? But the JDBC statements are those statements which are directly in the form of the SQL itself. So the database can understand them directly, right? So there is no intermediate conversion between the queries. So I think like I haven't used the JDBC template in my career, but so
Okay, okay, fine. Let's JDBC also ORM solution, right? So what is the other Do you see any disadvantage of using Hibernate or any other ORM solution?
Okay, so like any ORM tool, if we are using, so like we have to provide some, disadvantage you are asking, right?
Yes.
So for any kind of ORM tool and disadvantage, so the disadvantage can be one like it can be a lame example, but still like you should have the knowledge of like any kind of you are trying to add any kind of third dependency, right? So you should have the knowledge of using that. Like it might be possible like the configuration can be complex, like previously there were XML configuration, so many of them are preferring like Java configuration, or some of them are using the XML configuration. So whenever new joiners come, like the junior developers join any team, so it's little bit hard for them. Even it was for me to hard to understand the whole architecture of the Hibernate, because how it works, how it converts into this, and how the lazy and what is the eager. So it's a bit complex for the new joinee, right? So this is the one disadvantage. Uh, apart from this, like you have to add extra library, so that might like there is a overhead of maintaining its version. Like in the Spring MVC you have to take care of the version itself, because whenever you are trying to add any kind of third library, then you need to worry about the version itself, because in the Spring Boot, like if once you have changed the boot parent version, then all the dependent will automatically change to its latest the according version, right? But in the Spring MVC we had to check for each child dependency whether it is compatible to the parent or not, right? So in that case, like the version can also be another disadvantage. And
Yeah, okay, okay. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Sunil. That's fine. Okay, let's move back to Java 14, right? So you using Java 14. So which are the new feature of Java 14 you have been using in your project?
so okay, so Java 14 we have recently migrated to Java 14 because we thought like we should use the latest version of Java 14. So like they have improved their exception messages itself, so they are more user friendly or the developer friendly, we can say. So let's say any kind of null pointer exception or any kind of exception is there in your log file, so it will give you more clear information about your exceptions. Okay, so this is the one advantages I have found. Apart from this, like we can use the lambda expression along with this switch statement, so we can have a variable and we can directly hold the value using the lambda expression itself. So these are the some features like I have gone through in my project itself by using the Java 14.
Okay,
So
and okay, so Java 8 also you have, so one of the
yes,
previous version, Java 8?
yes,
Okay.
yes, previously version was Java 8 only.
Okay, so any of the Java 8 feature you have used?
Yeah, so Java 8 features almost like many of the features we are using. So like we are using stream APIs, we are using functional interfaces. Even we are using the the datetime API we are using very frequently. We are using the double colon operator. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, yes, I was just saying, yes, yes,
Okay.
double colon, method interface, yeah.
Yeah, method reference we are using. Apart from this, like the predefined functional interfaces are there, so we are also using them. And yeah, so these are the features we are using: stream APIs, lambda expressions, and
Okay, yeah. So can you tell me what is the difference between a functional interface and a normal interface?
sure. So functional interface and the normal interface is something like the functional interface. What functional interface says is like it should have only one abstract method. It can have any number of static or the default method. But in the normal interface, let's say you are having one interface, so you can add as much as you want to add the abstract method in it. But let's say you are having an interface and there is only one abstract method, so by default it's a functional interface. And there is annotation like that's optional. You can use the functional interface along with the interface itself. So it's optional, but once you have added that annotation, so JVM will warn, like the compiler will warn you if you try to add more than one abstract method in it. So functional interface is one which having the at most one abstract method in it, and we can provide the implementation of that abstract method through the lambda expression. So this is the way like to achieve the functional programming in Java.
Okay, fine, thanks. Sunil. And okay, so we also have this default method and static methods you mentioned in the interfaces now, right?
Yes.
Earlier we had only the
Yes.
abstract methods there.
Yes.
So considering a scenario again, technical design scenario I will give you, right? So we used to have this abstract classes, right, where we define the abstract functionality in the classes, and then we define the abstract method, so that any challenge classes will implement that abstract method, and they will provide the default implementation or into the abstract classes. Now we have similar thing in default interfaces now with the default methods, right?
Yes.
So in which scenario we will go for the interface with the default methods and versus abstract class with the non-abstract methods? Because
Sure.
both of them are kindly providing a similar functionality now, right?
Yes. Yeah, so after Java 8, like it's like the difference between these two is minimized, right? So like in the scenario, like as we know, like we cannot extend more than one class in like multiple inheritance is not supported through the class itself, right, in the Java. So what we can do, we instead of creating the abstract class, we should be creating the interfaces, and these interfaces should be like, as we know, like with the solid principle, like each interfaces should be independent to another interfaces. So like we can create as much as interfaces we want, and each interfaces can have the like the tightly coupled methods in it, but that interface should not be tightly coupled with another interface, and we can implement the multiple interface in the through any class. Like we can implement as number of as interface we want to implement in a class. So
Okay, so I'll give an example. Okay, let's say hypothetical example. I
Sure.
don't know how it will happen. So we have say interface A,
yes.
which has a public void default method, public void print,
Okay.
which accepts a string as a message, string or parameter, and it just do a system.out println. Yeah,
Sure.
we just print the message.
Mhm.
I will similarly have a string interface B, which also has same default method, public
Mhm.
void print, which is again accept a string parameter and print it.
Sure.
Or do something else, whatever it is. But both the default method signatures are same in interface A and interface B.
Sure.
Now I have a class C which implements interface A and interface B.
Mhm.
So what will happen in this scenario then?
Because both have the default implementation, right? Now you have to override the method which is present in the interfaces. Let's say void m1 or whatever the method, like the integer m1, whatever you have specified in the both of the interfaces. So you have to implement that method, but in the method itself, like you have to tell the compiler or the JVM like which method you want to invoke, from which interface you want to invoke the method. So for that, like you can use the interface name interface a dot super dot method name. So through that, like you can tell the compiler like I want to load this method. So like this is the way like we can have the multiple inheritance or diamond die problem has been resolved through the interfaces in the Java.
Okay, fine. You mentioned the stream API, right? You
Yes.
have used the stream APIs.
Yes.
Okay. So can you tell me, for example, I have the list of string, right? Which contains the name of the person, say Sunil. So each basically list of string is equal to new array list, and I have added say name Sunil, Kashif, and Jay. So these are multiple names, and there might be. So I need to find the names and the number of occurrences each name has come into that list, right? So the name Sunil can be 2 or 3 times into that list. So I need to find out how many times the Sunil has appeared into my array list. Similarly, other names. So basically I need to convert that list into a map.
Yes.
The key would be my
String.
name, and
Yeah.
the value would be the number
Integer,
of occurrences
yes.
for the name.
Yes, got it. So for that, like you can do like the list dot stream, and then you can use the collect, and collectors dot inside the collect method you can specify the collectors dot grouping by, and inside that you have two options, like you can either use the functional dot identity, or even you can use the I or arrow function then I. So it will take the string and it will again return the same string, right? So and then you can use the so this is the structure. It will return you the map of string and the integer value, the count value. It will give you the long value. It will give you the long value, but you can cast to the integer.
Okay. But group by means it will give me 2 values and in return a group by.
So group by is like group by whenever you're trying to group by some field. Okay, so here we are grouping by the string itself. So it will give you the string as a key and the number of occurrences as a value.
Okay, where do you define the collect the destination map value into the stream?
Sure. So do I need to share my screen so that I can write a dummy like pseudo code?
No, I think that is fine. I just
Okay.
explain in the single. The list.stream says group
Yeah.
by you said. I thought it's not next.
Yeah, so list.stream.collect. Inside the collect you have
Yeah.
to inside the collect you have to use the collectors.grouping by, and there you have to specify the function.identity.
Yes.
Yeah, so it will be giving you, and the like the collectors.counting in the as a second parameter.
Okay. Okay, fine. And okay, let's go back to this stream API, right? So now if I talk about, we used to have this, for example, earlier when we used to iterate through in a list, right? And we modify, for example, a list of string, I'm just going to iterating all that. And when I modify the same list during that loop, it used to throw the concurrent modification exception, right?
Yes.
Now what will happen if I do similar activity but I'll do it in a stream? Okay, let's say, are you aware of the difference between stream and parallel stream? Because both options are available in the stream. So what's the difference between these two?
So parallel stream is something like your task will be divided into the multiple independent threads, or the multiple tasks we can say, and they are divided into the chunks, and the chunks are independently work independently, and they final combine to final result. So in the case where you are having the large number of lists, let's say the millions or billions of the lists, then you can use the parallel stream to split your task into a sub task, and then they will be merged to single list.
So but how many subtasks we can create? Basically, how many parallel stream it will be created by default by the parallel stream?
So sure. So Kasip, that totally depends on the number of cores you are having with your system itself. So let's say you are having the 4 core in your system. So the number of threads totally depends on the cores you are available in your system. So let's say even in the multi-threaded environment, or even if you are using the executors, so whatever the number of threads you have specified, like the 100 of threads you have specified, they are useless, because you are having the 4 threads that can, you are 4 cores that can run simultaneously, right? So there can be 4 threads that can utilize the core, because there can be only 1 thread per core. So let's say it doesn't matter like how much threads you are have specified. It totally depends on the number of cores you are having with your hardware itself.
Okay, but in ideal scenario, okay, because not, for example, if you're running your process on one of the machine, right? It runs your window, whatever the operating system it has, the daemon processes, right? Some other processes and your processes. So anyways, even if you provide the, if say it's a 4 core, so it's not guaranteed that it will run at the same time 4, because other processes also will require the CPU, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. That is okay. But we can customize this. We can increase those, or we can change the size from the 4. Say it's a 4 core, we can define custom size as well. Like, can we do that for the parallel stream? For example, Executor framework, we can define 16 thread or 8 thread or 10 thread, whichever thread that we think will be possible. So for the parallel stream, can we do that?
Okay. For the parallel stream, I haven't seen or I haven't encountered such kind of situation where I have specified the number of threads to be used by the parallel stream. So I'm not sure on that.
Okay, let me go back to the Executor framework, right? So, okay, so what's the advantage of Executor framework versus directly using the thread class, or extending a thread class, or implementing the runables for that?
Sure. So let's say, let me give you a quick example. Let's say your request comes in, okay, and in the request, there is a method which is being called by that request. So in the business logic, you are creating the number of threads like by extending thread class or implementing the enable interval. So each time your request will come, each time your threads will come, will create it, right? So creating a thread, it's not an easy task. Like it is time consuming. Again, it will check the number of cores available, and accordingly it will create a thread for you. But in the executors, what we are doing, we are creating the thread pool in advance. So whenever your application gets up, so we are having the ready pool of the threads. So we do not need to create them again and again. So it will be performance will be a little faster, because you don't need to worry about the creation of the thread at the runtime, because you are handy. Okay. You are having the handy. Yes.
I understood. Okay, can you tell me how this thread pool works in this scenario, right? So I have created a thread. So normally, for example, when we create thread, we need to provide a run method implementation for this, right? So that and once the run method completes, the thread dies, right?
Yes.
So how do you keep this, basically how this thread executor framework, or how this thread pool keeps the thread active? For example, it takes, so I have a thread pool running, right? And it takes a job. Once job is finished, it goes back to the thread pool. It doesn't die.
Yes.
Do you think how it has been implemented in this for example, a given thread?
Yes, actually, they might have used the queue or the priority queue as an implementation. So
No,
let's
but
say
that's for the task. Well, that's for the task, right?
yes.
That's for the task. I'm talking about the thread lifecycle. So thread is when we call start, it goes basically it actually starts and it's in running state, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but in a part of thread pool, once the run method completes, thread dies, right? So
Yes.
basically, it performs one task and it dies.
Yes.
That's a life start and running and then dead.
Yes.
Now, but in the thread pool, a thread pool is continuously running. So we have the number of threads which are in the pool. I need to assign a task. It will do the task and come back to the thread pool.
Yes.
So how it is handled in a thread executor framework on this thread pool that instead of after completing the task, the thread instead of dying thread, it will go back to the thread pool.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Sure. So your question is clear to me. Like once a thread completes its execution, like how it again going to a thread pool. Okay. So how it is going? So for that, like you have to use the new case thread pool so that your previously created thread can be reused. But for that,
No, it's fine. This is the reason. No, not an issue. Okay, let's go quickly move to into the immutable classes, right? So what's the purpose of immutable classes in Java?
so the immutable class the gives you the guarantee like once you have created the instance of a class, then it's not modifiable, right? So let's say you are having a string class which is immutable in nature. So every time you create the instance, create the object, you try to update it, it will result into the new string itself. So and it also have the thread safety. So like you are sure about like once you have created the instance, so it's not going to modify.
Okay. And what about string constant pool? Are you aware about what is the string constant pool?
Yeah, so string constant pool is something like which is used to avoid creating the unnecessary objects in the heap itself. So let's say you are having the string str is equals to, let's say, kashif. So again you are trying to create the str is equals to some value. So they are going to create into the string constant pool until you are not using the new keyword with it. So they are going to create it into the string constant pool itself. So to avoid the like the unnecessary object creation into the heap, so string constant pool have been introduced. And
Okay, yeah, let's take an example. I just chatted there. I don't know if you're able to see this chat window.
okay, so let me,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so string s1 is equal to new string of abc. The string s2 is equal to double quotes abc, and string s3 is equal to new string of abc. So can you tell me how many objects I will have for string in heap, and how many basically which objects will point to basically the string abc and the string constant pool?
Sure. So string s1 is equals to new string abc. So here you will have the string s1 variable which will be keep pointing to the like string constant pool. There will be string abc, and also in the heap memory there will be abc. So two objects will be created in the first statement. For the second statement, like you have already created abc in the constant pool, so you will it will not create a new object in the string constant pool. It will directly point to the abc object which is already present in the string constant pool. For the third statement, like it will not create a new object in the string constant pool because you are already having, but it will create a new instance in your heap memory. So there would be two objects in the heap memory using the new keyword, and there would be only one object in the string constant pool.
Okay, that's fine. So that's what I was wanted to. I forgot. Okay, okay. So this string constant pool is part of heap memory or some other memory in JVM.
So like the in the JVM, like I think after Java 1.8, they have done something related to string constant pool.
Okay, I'll just rephrase my question. Can you just explain me the Java memory model?
Yeah, sure. So in the Java memory, like we are having the memory is divided into some parts, like we are having the method area, then we are having the heap memory, then we are having the program counter registers, then we are having the native memory. So the string
Okay.
const so the method area is used like whenever we are trying to we are having the objects which are referring to the objects which are created into the heap memory, or all the results, like if you are using the recursion, so you are having the intermediate result, so is there it will keep the address of that instruction. And the native memory is used for the, for using your native, if you are if you are having the native method, then you can use the native like method
Okay.
itself.
Okay, let me ask one more question. So we have, you must have this Java memory, Java out of memory exception, right? So there are two types of out of memory exception. One is a heap size and one is a permanent space. What's the difference between these two?
Okay, so like the pum jump space is also known as the method area itself. So like the in the pum jump space, like since Java 1.8 it has been removed. Okay, so like what they have done, like the pum jump area well used to hold the static variables, and apart from these the all the references to the heap memory which is present in the heap, so the reference to the heap memory they will be placed into the your method area. So like they have pum jump space. Now they have removed the pum jump space and they have merged these two the heap memory itself, and they have introduced the one new like method like meta space, I think. So that is new added by the in the Java 1.8 version. So
Okay, so how do you resolve the permanent memory issue? So heap size, you can increase the heap size, right? Let's say out of memory, because you can just set, can you say from 1 GB to 2 GB, you can set as the max heap size. But for the permgen, what is the option to solve that permgen issue?
okay, so for the pum jump space, like uh, for the pum jump space, like what we can do, let me think. So I think in the JVM, I think I have encountered this issue in my previous organization. So there was some property in the XML configuration itself. There is in the JVM, right? So there we have to specify in the JDK itself. Like we have to, there is some, I'm not very sure about the key for that key value pair, but there is some key for which the value, initial memory is assigned, so we can increase that memory, I think.
Okay, okay, fine. Thanks. Okay, so have you worked on the REST services?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the advantage, and what are you aware of the SOAP service as well or not?
No, we are using RESTful web services only.
Okay, okay. So what's the difference between the normal REST service and RESTful web service?
Normal?
REST service versus RESTful web service. RESTful is
Okay.
different, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you are having the REST and you are having the RESTful. So like
Yes.
the REST is something like there is a pattern. Okay, so REST is something like you are having a pattern, and RESTful is something like which is adopting that pattern or which is implementing that pattern. So REST is something like as if you talk about the full form, so it's shorthand for representational state transfer, right? So this is the shorthand for the REST, and the RESTful is the one which is implementing the REST. So see, all the implementation of the REST would follow the REST structure itself, right? So this is the difference, I think.
Okay, fine. So normally these REST services work on the HTTP methods, right? So
Yes.
what are the different methods we can implement in the REST HTTP methods?
So like we are having the HTTP methods, like we are having the put, post, get, delete, page. We
Okay,
are
so
having.
what's the difference between post and put?
So post is something like whenever you're trying to create a new resource, so you should use the post. But let's say you are having already created a resource, whether it doesn't matter it's in database or whether you are using some kind of collection at your server side, but you are trying to update the original like existing server or existing resource, then you should use the put method. Apart from this, like put is an idempotent method, but the post is non-idempotent method, and also like the put is non-safe and also the post is non-safe method.
Okay, and how do you secure your REST endpoint? For example, you are exposing a REST service which provides a list of, say, foreign currency exchange or say a list of countries, right? And the country codes. So you expose your API and it is provide the data to our internet. How do you secure them so that only authorized users or someone authorized are only able to call those APIs and get the output?
Sure,
How do you
Kashyap.
secure them?
Sure. So like it depends. Like there are many ways to secure your application. So it depends which mechanism are you adopting to securing your application. So let's say we are having the like what we are using here like the pub key authentication mechanism, and like we are having the JWT authentication also. We are having the Spring security. So we are having the different security type like we can implement. So let me elaborate few of them. So let's say we are using the pub key authentication. So what is pub key authentication? Whenever user tries to logs in, so we are checking against the database whether this user is authenticated or not. If the user is authenticated, then we are generating a 16-bit encrypted key and we are returning along with the login response itself. So anytime if user try to hit any kind of request, he has to send that pub key along with the header itself, and we are just decrypting that like we are just again creating the 16-bit encryption key using we are having the secret key on the server. So again we are checking with the original key whether they are matching or not. If they are not matching, then we are saying that this user is invalid user. So this is the pub key authentication. Apart from this, like you can add dependency like Spring Boot starter data security Spring Boot starter security, sorry. And you can create a custom class, and there you have to implement like you have to annotate with the enable web security, and you have to extend from the web security configure adapter. Then you have to override two of the methods, like one is the authentication manager builder, so it follows the builder design pattern, and apart from then the second method like HTTP security. So there is a way like whatever you want to, like in memory authentication you want to perform, or CSRF authentication mechanism you want to provide, whatever mechanism you want to do, you can provide there. Apart from this, you are having the JWT authentication.
Yeah, I think that's enough. Thanks for that one. One probably last question before I hand over to Jay for his inquiries. And okay, so how do we prevent the DDoS attack? Are you aware of the DDoS attack? I think I just forgot. So whenever, for example, you have a user, authenticated user is continuously making a call to your APIs, right? Which is preventing your server to process the request for other users.
Okay.
Denial of service attack, right? Denial of service. How do you prevent that? Because it's exposed, your API is exposed on internet, right? So anybody can call that API, for example. How do you prevent that?
Okay, so denial of service. So let me okay, so like this situation I haven't faced, but like if some request is coming again and again and they are blocking some another request, right? So we can have the number of counts like for which for same user it is how many times it is getting hit, and we can manage the counter, and if it's like exceeding the threshold level within the limit, then we can I think we can block it or whatever we want to do.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Thanks, Sunil. Thanks.